Hi, everyone. It's the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get today's session started. Thanks so much for coming to hashtag Nicotine Addiction Check, a qualitative analysis of TikTok and youth e-cigarette use. My name's Erica Lake, and I'm the Medical and Academic Library Outreach Coordinator for Region 6 at the Network of the National Library of Medicine. And I'm going to be the host for today's session. We have just a few housekeeping items to cover before we get started. All attendees have been muted, but we welcome your questions and comment in the chat at any time. Miles Dietz-Castell, who is Region 6's Communication and Finance Coordinator, is providing technical assistance today, and he's going to be keeping an eye on the chat with me. So just please be sure to select everyone from the drop-down menu in chat when posting your questions to ensure both Miles and I see them. We're going to queue them up as they come in, and we'll save them for our speaker to address at the end of her presentation. Closed caption has been enabled, and that's available by clicking on the icon with the 3 dots down at the bottom of your screen. We're recording today's session, and we'll post it on NNLM's YouTube channel in 1 to 2 weeks. At that time, everyone who's registered for this session will receive an email from us with the link for the recording. This class is eligible for 1 Medical Library Association continuing education credit, which you'll be able to claim through the evaluation link and the enrollment code that we share with you at the end of class. And speaking of that evaluation, your feedback really matters to us. So take a minute and complete that for us. It helps us to improve future training sessions. So since some of you might be first-time attendees to our webinars, I'd like to just take a few minutes to share a few words about who we are. You may be familiar with this hierarchy shown here and all these acronyms, but maybe unsure of how they relate to one another. NLM, the National Library of Medicine, is one of the 27 institutes and offices of the National Institutes of Health. It's the world's largest biomedical library and produces online resources like PubMed and Medline Plus. NNLM, the Network of the National Library of Medicine, is an outreach program of NLM, working to ensure health professionals and the public have equal access to health information. NNLM is made up of 7 regional medical libraries, 4 national offices, and 4 national centers, all providing training, funding, and engagement opportunities to over 9,000 NNLM member organizations. Region 6 includes the great states of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. If you'd like to connect with your regional medical library or learn more about us, you can check out the NNLM website at nnlm.gov. Today's session was organized by Region 6 as part of our Speaker Spotlight series. This ad hoc series features expert guest speakers presenting on topics of interest to all our users, from librarians to public health practitioners, educators, clinicians, and others who work with health information. You can learn about upcoming sessions by subscribing to our Region 6 newsletter, checking out our blog, or by following us on Facebook and Twitter. And you can join us on Twitter right now if you'd like to, because Miles will live tweet during the session and share highlights and links to information that's mentioned. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's Speaker Spotlight, Michaela Morales. Michaela is an incoming first-year Master of Public Health student in the Community and Behavioral Health Department at the University of Iowa College of Public Health. In May, she graduated with her bachelor's in public health and a minor in Spanish, and she has a deep affinity towards health equity work, and she's passionate about using social justice tools to identify and address health inequities among marginalized groups. So welcome, Michaela. I'm going to stop sharing these slides now, and we can bring yours up, and I'll turn off my camera and you can get started. Thanks.
Thank you for the introduction, Erica. It's nice to be speaking to you all today. I'm excited to tell you some more about my study and paper that was published on the study called hashtag Nicotine Addiction Check, Puff Bar Culture, Addiction Apathy, and Promotion of E-Cigarettes on TikTok. But first of all, we should talk about who I am and why you should listen to me. I am from a small town in Illinois called Toulon. I think it's very unlikely that you would know what that is. I'd be shocked if you've even been there, but that kind of informs some of my experience from being in a small town. And I decided to go to the University of Iowa. I had a lot of interests. I had interest in like biomedical engineering, anthropology, international health, and they would not let me be an indecisive triple major. So my academic advisor and I talked about what I could do that would encompass all of these interests. And fortunately, she suggested public health, and I did a couple introductory courses and I fell in love. Like Erica said, I graduated with my bachelor's in May and I loved it so much. I signed up for an additional 2 years to get my MPH in community and behavioral health. Um, it may be coming as a surprise to some of you, but I do have a life outside of academia. And first and foremost, I am a mom to a cat, and her name is Luna, and she's lovely, the light of my life. Secondly, I play rugby here at the university, which has been super fun and a great way to like supplement my life here as a student. I also want to take some time to acknowledge the people that have made this study possible and have been collaborators and people in my network. First and foremost, I want to extend a great thanks to my mentor, Dr. Shannon Lee Watkins. She was the PI on this study. I also want to thank Alexis Farian. She was my co-author and she really pushed this study through. I'm not quite sure we would have finished the paper if it wasn't for her help. I also want to extend some thanks to people who have been on the team, past and present, and supporters of the team, which are Kamara Shaw, Felicia Piper, Dr. Minji Kim, Kate Snodgrass, Colton Ball, Emily Shaw, Abby McDonald, and Dr. Erin Vogel. These people really have just enriched my experience on this team. So the goals of this presentation, I want to be able to describe and justify the significance of our project findings, as well as sharing my experience of conducting research as an undergraduate and provide you key takeaways for engaging young research collaborators. I wanted to give a little bit of background information about TikTok itself for those who may not be super familiar with the app. Maybe you've seen it, or maybe you have it but aren't on it, or you don't, like you've never been on it at all. So TikTok is a video-based social media platform, and you get a homepage that is called a For You page. It's called that because TikTok has a super smart algorithm. When you download the app as a new person on the app, you get a very generic homepage that's filled with viral videos. And as you scroll and like different videos and certain content, the algorithm picks up on your interests and gives you videos that are within those broad and niche interests that you have. And I'm going to explain different aspects of the image that I have posted on this slide because some of these aspects of the video were really important to our study and when we collected data and when we analyzed it. So first of all, the caption at the top that says, "What the puff flavor you smoke says about you." We identified that as the video text. The circle on the middle right is where the profile picture would be, but we did blur that out. Below that is the like button, and it shows the total amount of likes the video has, as well as the comment section below with the total amount of comments. You have the ability to share the video with friends, and it has the total amount of shares. This is where the username would be, as well as below that is the caption and hashtags and the sound that is used in this video. So why did we choose TikTok as our platform of choice? Well, TikTok was really new in 2020. I think it had only been out for maybe less than a year. Don't quote me on that in the US at that time. But in early 2020, the pandemic hit and lockdown started. And within the first 3 months of 2020, TikTok soared in popularity in the US. It had over 315 million downloads in the first 3 months. And most of those people, or a lot of those people, were youth and young adults. And they were spending much of their time at home. And maybe they were spending a lot of that time on social media, which included TikTok. And the reason that we identified TikTok specifically is because of my insider knowledge of being like a young person on TikTok, I did identify that there was a presence of nicotine content there, which really just piqued me and my PI's interest of something that we could dive into. An example of this is the image on the right. You can see that the image text says, me, the creator, nicotine, water, and a rice cake for the day. And in the caption of the video, it says self-care all 2020. I don't think just having nicotine, water, and a rice cake would constitute self-care. And that's the joke. So we wanted to dig more into this idea of what this content was portraying, like what were these people seeing on TikTok, and that kind of informed our research objective of using puff bars specifically. Moving into puff bars themselves, we decided to use puff bar because it was one of the most popular and highest rated e-cigs on the market at the time. They are super sleek. And as you can see, I have a couple pictures there. And puff bar is really interesting because of the point in time that this all happened. There was a FDA flavor ban loophole, as we call it, because the FDA placed a flavor ban on e-cigs to just have menthol or tobacco flavoring. So that was what, those are like vapes that weren't disposable. So like Juul is a really good example. So Juul had to remove all of their flavorings and just have tobacco or menthol. But this left a loophole for disposable vapes to just go crazy. And that's what Puff Bar did. Puff Bar soared in popularity among youth and young adults, and they became one of the most popular and highest rated e-cigarettes. And they did that with their sleek and discreet design. Moving into why we decided to do this study at all in general is because it was a novel idea. At the time, there was maybe 2 studies published about TikTok on Google Scholar, like having to do with anything, not like TikTok and e-cigarettes, just TikTok in general. And I'm not quite sure if there was much or anything at all about puff bars. So we had to go in with a pretty broad research objective, keeping that in mind, that we were just being very exploratory with what we wanted to find. If you're unable to read the caption of the picture of the right, that's another example of some of our data. It's a meme. It's supposed to be a joke. It's one of those like really like niche things. I'm not quite sure how to explain it because I don't really know what the joke is myself. It's mostly just like being funny. And the caption of that does say, "Welcome to the official Puff Bar TikTok." So that was our official question. And it was, what kind of Puff Bar content is on TikTok? And another thing on this is that we wanted to really see what young adults and youth were seeing in regard to puff bar content on TikTok, which is this like this video, this image on the right. Going into the findings, one of the first findings we've had was direct and indirect evidence of addiction apathy. And what we mean by that is that people were making like intentionally vaping for specific side effects, such as like suppressing their appetite or using it to help them go to the restroom, and lots of making jokes about their like nicotine dependence. There was this sound or this audio that we referenced in our paper, and it says like, "I'm a crackhead," and people would use that sound with their content about vaping and make jokes about how they're addicted, or like, "Oh my gosh, I need to quit," or whatever thing they wanted to bring to the table with that. And a really good example of that is the image on the right, where the creator captioned it, "I'm dying of lung cancer," as they display all their puff bars that they've smoked in whatever amount of time. The second finding that we had was legitimacy concerns, as well as a lack of them. And what I mean by that is, so on a puff bar, there's a QR code or a code that you can use to scan or type in to verify that the puff bar that you have is legit and from the puff bar company. The picture I have here is an image of that verification process currently on Puff Bar's website, and it gives you the process of doing it. It says that they extract the data and validate it, and you're done. It's a good puff bar. You can smoke it. And I thought that was very, very interesting because we thought that attested to the presence of knockoffs. So Puff Bar themselves admitted to the fact that there are knockoffs on the market. And so they implemented this verification system. And it was also interesting because we felt that it may implement some sort of like false sense of security when it comes to vaping or smoking or vaping nicotine. And I say that because this verifying of the puff bar code is right above the warning label. And I think the idea that it is a legit product may like dissuade their potential concerns of smoking nicotine. The third finding that we had was underage promotion. And this was very interesting because, like I talked about on the previous slide, there is a presence of knockoffs as well as resell or sellers or like an underground market for people to buy puff bars, and they may or may not be legit. And this was rather interesting because people were specifically targeting minors, and they did it in a way where they would say certain things like no ID needed, or this is where you can get the Puff Bar Plus. And then they showed how to go to this website and order these puff bars if they're legit. And they would need no ID, and the packaging is discreet to help them hide it from their parents or guardian. Or they can directly reach out to a underground seller. So the creator of these videos would plug their Snapchat or their Instagram. And that way, if a minor or a young adult wanted to reach out to them to buy a puff bar, they could do that. And they offer things like free shipping as an incentive. The last finding that we had was this presence of enhancing communication with TikTok tools. I thought this was really interesting because I thought it acted as a testament to how popular these hashtags were that we used, which was puff bar related hashtags to help us do our data collection and search at this time. So what I mean by that is that we had several videos that the content of the videos had nothing to do with puff bar, nothing to do with vaping at all, but they used a puff bar related hashtag in their caption. And they did that, we think they did that as a means to boost their engagement on their videos in hopes of going viral. So once again, this content was really, really popular, this puff bar content, and people were getting in on it to promote their own stuff. Some other examples of that, besides going viral based on hashtags, is the use of an effect or video altering tools on TikTok, such as the bling effect. This was particularly interesting when it came to puff bar videos because there was this like aesthetically pleasing aspect based on like the sleek design of puff bars. So some people would put this filter or the bling effect over it and make it just like a very aesthetically pleasing video. And that could be more enticing to people to want to use it because it just looks pretty, you know? So moving into the actual process of getting this data, we ended up screening 184 videos. I believe we ended up with just under 150. I'd have to double check that, my bad. Another thing that we did is the way that we picked certain videos, we had a criteria. So the videos had to be posted with a puff bar related hashtag, and it had to have an engagement rate of at least 0.2. And that was calculated by adding the total amount of likes, comments, shares, and dividing that by the views of the video overall. So that's how we got those videos and ended up with the content that we ended up analyzing. And I wanted to share the process of doing analysis on videos because it's kind of cool to do video analysis as opposed to like text or numbers, because you have to work with your team to make sure that you are getting the same thing out of the video and seeing the same thing as them. So it's a really, really collaborative process. So we had to do a lot of iteration to make sure that I was seeing the addiction mentions in the same way that Shannon was, or that she picked up on there was an aesthetic aspect to this video. And that's where some of my like insider perspective of being on TikTok really did help. Moving on to the public health practice implications, I really want to emphasize that utilizing social media as an informal source is really invaluable, especially if you're going to be doing research or concerned at all with what youth and young people are seeing, hearing, consuming, and talking about with each other. And social media is where they do that. And it's nice because you can also see it without having to literally be in the presence of like youth and young adults. My question is now, how do we approach apathy towards addiction? And this is me being genuine, like, how do we do this? Because this study, we show that there's a presence of it. These kids, these youth and young adults, they are addicted. They may know that they're addicted or they may not, and they acknowledge it or they may not. And the ones that do and are apathetic towards it, now, how do we use that as a fact to inform our approach towards addressing addiction? So maybe this is something to keep in mind, like have empathy towards this. It's not that they don't know, like maybe they do know and they are apathetic towards that fact. Something else that I want to bring up is we should be more advocating for more e-cigarette policy changes. The FDA flavor ban that I mentioned earlier is a really, really great example of a ban that like had good intentions, but left this huge loophole that allowed for so many youth and young adults to get hooked on disposable vapes because of this loophole left in the ban. So moving forward, we should be really advocating for more holistic e-cigarette policy changes. Now I'm going to be moving into my experience of researching as an undergraduate. I had been working with Shannon on the Watkins research team since like December 2019. So it was like halfway through my sophomore year of undergrad. So I had spent at least half of my undergraduate experience conducting this research. And I feel like that really just became a big part of my identity, is doing this research and learning it. Obviously there was like, not obviously, but there was some conflicts of like time commitments, and this wasn't like my only commitment. I was on rugby, I had other jobs. So that's something I'm very appreciative that my PI Shannon is just so understanding of, is my holistic identity and just not my identity as her employee or her researcher, and as well as the fact that she really values my opinion and what I bring to the table. And like for this picture is me leading a meeting that we had out of nowhere. It was not meant for me to be leading that meeting that day. It just ended up, I was leading a discussion because that's just how much she trusts us to take the conversation and elevate it and enrich it. So I had a really great experience researching as an undergraduate, and that experience informed my decision to pursue a master's and potentially pursue a PhD to become my own PI and conduct my own research. So the tips that I have for this for you is you should really foster an inclusive environment. And that looks different for everyone. So the main point of this is you have to communicate with your team and what that looks like for them. And another thing on that is that the thing that no question is a dumb question. I think it's kind of funny because somebody can tell me that a million times. Shannon, my PI Shannon, she can tell me that a million times. And she has fostered the most inclusive, safe environment for me. But if I think a question is dumb, it's just going to feel that way for me. And I think that acknowledging that fact that sometimes the question just feels dumb, but you should still ask it anyway, is great, because it helps me get over that hump. It helps me okay, that I'm over that now. And it just helps people really just get into the nitty gritty of like what we're talking about. Another thing too with this is that obvious things to you may be new territory for them, like me, us. You've been probably in your research or your career for a very, very long time, and you're more than likely an expert in your field, and that's amazing. And all that time you spent becoming an expert in your field has made you more far removed from people who aren't. And I really like this example of when I was writing this paper, and Shannon had tasked me for the day to work on writing the abstract. And I was a good student. I got my stuff done in undergrad. I did my readings. I did not know what an abstract was. I mean, I didn't know like the logistics of it. And this is a conversation I had with Shannon after the fact. I was like, like I didn't know what that was, and you did just tell me to do it. And I mean, I had to Google it. I had to Google what an abstract was and what it was made up of. And that was just like a aha moment for Shannon, like, oh, moving forward, when I work with new people, I need to remember that some of these things that are very, very obvious to me is new to them. And this is especially relevant with academia and first generation students, because I'm a first gen student and academia can just be so hard to understand sometimes, especially when you're new to it. So just be really conscious of that if you're going to be working with first gen students or any new students at all. And lastly, just remember how it felt doing research for the first time. It was scary. The paper that I wrote, it was only published in February. So this is all still very new, still very like a new feeling to me. It's all very relevant and recent. And I remember it all feeling like one thing after another. And it was just a very daunting experience at times. So having that team that would support me and uplift me and help me out and extend a hand when I needed it, and let me ask those questions that I thought were dumb, really did help us just pull the paper and the study through to the end. So now what? This is probably going to be my favorite slide of the whole presentation, because I get to explain to you what is going on now with nicotine on TikTok. But first, I want to share what the study laid the foundation for. So the research objective for our paper, it was just what kind of puff bar content was on TikTok. And we found our findings, and that study laid the foundation for some of my team members on the Watkins research team to do a sexual gender minority e-cigarette study on TikTok. And it's super, super interesting. They're currently working on that. And I'm just really, really proud to have helped, formulate that. On TikTok now, the nicotine content is still very large and relevant, and it's growing. For example, if you look down at the bottom of the screen, there are 3 images. All of them have been posted within like the last 2 months-ish. I just pulled them from looking up certain search terms with nicotine. And on the bottom left, it's a meme about being in a middle or high school bathroom, and they have some characters from SpongeBob, the cartoon. And it says, POV, point of view, you catch the Nick addicts in the school bathroom, and these characters are all standing there like deer in the headlights with their e-cigarettes. I think they're puff bars, I can't see. The second one is a pros and cons list. I was going to share a screenshot of this video that I collected, but it was mostly of the creator's face. So I just recreated the pros and cons list that the creator made. And the creator said, here's my pros and cons list of vaping. Pro, I want to vape. And then the cons, I don't want to. I always feel sick, it costs a lot of money, and it tastes nasty. And then the creator had like this kind of comedic pause and was like, yeah, there's an obvious winner here. I'm going to revisit this later. And then the third one is what I like to kind of call, I think it's more of an abstract meme. So this is pretty niche. You have to know Harry Styles, pop star, released an album this year, and the single that he released, As It Was, he released a music video with it. On it, he is in a red jumpsuit. The person next to him is in a blue jumpsuit, and they're spinning around on on this moving platform in a circle. And in the video, the creator of this TikTok did the same thing, moving their e-cigarette devices, a blue and a red one, in a circle at the same time Harry and the person in the music video were moving around. And people went crazy for this, especially if they liked e-cigarettes and they liked Harry Styles, which is a pretty big population, especially if you're young. Aside from that, I get to now pursue my own personal research interest. I'm still helping and doing work for Shannon and helping with some e-cigarette research, but now using the information and the skills that I got from doing this study, I get to work with Dr. Nicole Novak here at the University of Iowa. She has a really deep interest in Latino health, which I do as well. And we're actually going to just started doing some research about birth health outcomes in Central Americans, which I'm Central American and just very excited to start doing this work. Some final takeaways that I wanted to leave y'all with were, as I've established, youth are at a great risk of e-cigarette use, and we now know that there's a lot of youth-targeted nicotine content on TikTok. So we should keep that in mind as we pursue youth e-cig use intervention or prevention, and make sure we're using TikTok as a tool and other apps, not just TikTok, because it can be like a really, really good source and as a data source and a tool to do research on. That was it. Thank you.
That was awesome, Michaela. Thank you. All right, we're going to open this up now to questions from everyone. Looks like we have one that just came in. We have a question about your insider perspective from being a student researcher. And I was glad you addressed that in your presentation, because I had a lot of questions about that too. I was really curious about how that was for you. And we have a question here that says, would you be willing to share other examples of moments that were impactful, either scary ones or aha moments for you that would help either mentors build empathy for working with young researchers, or for young researchers to kind of have enough bravery to step into the field and try something like this themselves?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. Something that I think, at least an advice for mentors to do to help them have more empathy or just like build a better connection with their researchers, is a really great example is the picture on this final takeaway slide. That is a picture of some of the team members and myself doing a session, just a workday session to work through our studies or different things we were working on. And this did take place at our PI's house. She invited us over for a day of work and meals. And it was just a really good experience to like share this space with each other as well as Shannon. So that was a really, really good experience. And we've done this a couple times, and it helps us push our work through, which is great. As far as scary moments, nothing is coming to mind right off the top of my head. I apologize. Aha moments though, definitely just pushing through the last part, the last leg of getting the paper written. We had like a really good draft. We had gotten some feedback, and really the last thing we had to do was just make our final edits and go. And I think it really was towards the end where everything started to click for me. And I kind of expressed that to some of the team members. It's like, man, I felt like I had no idea what I was doing this whole time, but turns out I did. So just help them through their like feelings of insecurity, and just motivate them and let them know that the work that they're doing and their ideas are really, really valid and insightful.
Yeah, I think that manuscript process is daunting and challenging to get through for everyone, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We did just have a comment here thanking you for so much of the thorough explanations. And then we have another question that's, do you think Nick Talk is more influential than Quit Talk? And do you think Quick Talk is growing or shrinking? How can TikTok be used as a tool to help kids stay off e-cigarettes? And I hope you know what all those are because I don't.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful question. I'm just going to take a quick second to explain some of the aspects of this question. So the person asking this question, they're referencing TikTok. That's a shortened version of what is a community on TikTok. I talked a bit about like the algorithm and like sharing discourse. Essentially, you want to make and receive content on your For You page with people who have like similar interests as you. And that usually turns into little communities such as TikTok, which is a shortened name of nicotine TikTok. And it's usually a hashtag. Um, Same thing with Quit Talk. I don't know the exact background of Quit Talk. I don't know if it's from the Truth Campaign or anything like that. So I do apologize. That's just something I'm not informed about right this second, but I do know what it is. So it is a similar method of TikTok to like share and see content related to e-cigarettes and nicotine. Quit Talk is, I am assuming, just like the Truth Campaign and like sharing cessation methods or like don't start or like here is how we can help you quit. Trying to use those same like TikTok enhanced communication tools to try to broaden their audience. In terms of whether I think it's growing or shrinking, that's a really good question. And it's hard for me to have like a good perspective on that, as I have not been a person who Quit Talk has like targeted. So I have not seen any on my personal TikTok. I haven't seen any Quit Talk hashtags. So I don't really know what it's doing in terms of growing or shrinking, but I think the method is like really, really on the right track though, because if it can take off and it can broaden its audience, it could be influential, just as influential as like TikTok is. It's just a matter of like how that messaging is used or like displayed. I see a
Yeah.
question. Oh, I'm sorry. Erica, are you asking the questions?
Well, I am just, yep, you're probably seeing the same ones come in too. We do have another one here that's kind of um, piggybacking on that last question about any thoughts you have on how we can counter e-cigarette ads on TikTok with ads of our own encouraging kids to rethink e-cigarettes.
That's a great question. Thank you. So I am pretty positive that there's no like e-cigarette ads from companies. It's more so like, so there are influencers or just very popular people on TikTok who are using e-cigarettes, and they may or may not be paid by these companies, which we don't know, to like promote these products. So there's not like a Puff Bar ad that's like, we are the company Puff Bar and you should vape our product. It's nothing like that. It's a lot more like implicit. So that is a really hard thing to kind of find and target. And I think that's something that people should use as a research question or like try to inform an intervention. As in regard to like how you can use TikTok with ads of your own to rethink e-cigs, I think the Quit Talk movement is a really good example, or what the Truth Campaign had done on other social media apps such as Instagram would be a good thing to do. It's just super interesting with TikTok in particular because it has such a smart algorithm that it's not that if I posted a video and used a certain hashtag, not every person in the TikTok would see it. It's who TikTok thinks would be interested or impacted by my content would show it to them. It's really interesting. If you ever have like the time and you want to like learn more about TikTok's algorithm, I think that would be a really good way to like think about how you can use your own messaging to rethink e-cigarettes.
Michaela, you may have said this. Does Puff Bar do any direct marketing on TikTok?
I don't think they're allowed.
Okay.
I can check. I don't want to like make any like false claims, but I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to do that. at least I haven't seen any either. There's no like Puff Bar official not Instagram, sorry, no official Puff Bar TikTok account, and same thing with other like e-cig companies. So I'm almost positive that they're just not allowed to.
Yeah, and that
But they're finding
ruling
ways to get around it.
that ruling with Juul, they're really limited now on how they can market.
Yeah.
And I had another question myself, just about the time frame of your study. I
Mhm.
think you said that you started this before everything shut down with the pandemic. Is that right?
We had actually, oh, that's such a good question because I don't think I clarified this very well. TikTok boomed in popularity during like before the pandemic hit, but also while the lockdown had started. We didn't transition into doing some like conceptualizing of this project until after we were in lockdown because we were working on other things. And this was really just like, okay, what can we do from home? Because we were supposed to be doing like a interview-based in-person study.
Wow. So the lockdown really shaped your whole methodology then.
It really did.
Oh, I wonder how many other studies have been affected that drastically.
Yeah.
We do have something in the chat about, is there a way for those interested in reading your paper? And yeah, I can share that link. I just need to be able to pull it up. Or if you have the link available to the PDF, Michaela, I know that
Yeah,
it's
I
it's
can. Should I stop
openly
sharing this?
available.
Yeah. Should I stop sharing my screen first, or I can do that at the end?
Oh, sure, yeah. However you'd like to share that.
Okay, I'll send the link to the paper once we're done asking questions, if that's okay.
And we could also send that out with the email that goes out with the link to the recording too, and put it in there. Let's see. Not sure if there looks like there are some other questions. Is there any data on how successful the Truth campaign has been?
That's a wonderful question. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert on tobacco and nicotine use. I I do not know. That is something I'm sure my PI Shannon would know if she could help, but she's not. And I'm sorry, I don't have the information to answer that question.
All right, we've got the link to the paper in the chat now. I think, oh, there was another comment just on, I'm on TikTok and it is a very complicated algorithm, but I'd love to use it for some sort of health education for kids. And we've got the
Oh, yeah.
paper.
Well, mhm. That is something I would probably be really helpful in like talking through like one-on-one. So I would be very happy to like, if anybody's interested in maybe doing something similar or using TikTok as a platform of their choice, like I'd love to talk through your ideas with you one-on-one.
Great. Is there a way that attendees can reach out to you?
Yes. Should I throw it in the chat? Is there a chat?
Yep, there is. That would be great. Thanks.
I'm gonna set my email in here and feel free to reach out to me. And I see that there is a link to the paper. I'm gonna insert that in the chat as well.
We do have one more question that's come in. How has your research changed your perspective on research or on e-cigarettes, if at all?
I love that because when I started this work on the Watkins team, I didn't really have a great background in e-cigs. I had a like informal experience with it just growing up as e-cigs were kind of taking off. in my high school, like Juul was super popular. So I had that experience to bring to the table. But other than that, I had no like formal training on e-cigarettes or anything like that. So this experience has really broadened my knowledge on e-cigarettes overall. So I've learned so much, especially things I didn't even know, like how certain communities are like disproportionately impacted by like messaging with tobacco, or how at risk youth are for e-cigarette use and how detrimental that can be to their health. And this research has changed my perspective on research, because I used to see it as like research and academia as something that felt like pretty exclusive. As a first generation Latina, it was really difficult to kind of get over that feeling until I was there doing work with people. And I think this is key too, because I feel like it can be exclusive, like research can be exclusive. But I was with people in an environment that was so supportive and inclusive that we were able to do this work that helped me get over this idea of research. And now I'm potentially going to become a researcher in the future. And I think this whole experience has changed, like, I think the trajectory of my life. And I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't see any more questions coming in right now. I'm going to go ahead and just share some final information here, but everybody, please feel free to continue to enter questions into the chat. Stay on for a few more minutes. And we do just have the evaluation link for today's session, and then the enrollment code if you are interested in Medical Library Association continuing education credit. And we'll just leave those up on the screen here while we're still talking.
I just want to thank you all for coming and listening to hear what I have to say. And thank you to Erica and Miles for giving me the opportunity to share.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been fantastic to hear about this. Yeah, it's great. Thanks to everyone for attending today's session.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the network of the National Library of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel, or select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.